Welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Fit, the all-in-one AI-powered corporate wellness platform developed by Vantage Circle.
Being emotionally resilient enables us to handle stressful situations more skillfully, and this further helps navigate our life effectively. Because at the end of the day, only you can control yourself. Hello and welcome to another episode of Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. I am your host Parishmita, and we are to discuss today about emotional resilience with Megha Mathur, who is a stress and anxiety as well as corporate wellness coach. Hi Megha, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Parishmita. It's really great. I'm really grateful for being here today and for you having me as a guest. So thank you.
It's a privilege for us too, Megha. So let's begin with the first informal question, of course. So how do you define emotional resilience and what are the traits of an emotionally resilient individual?
So for me, emotional resilience basically means an individual who has the strength to power through a storm and keep themselves steady. You know, all of us are learning from all of our experiences throughout our life. And many times we as individuals forget that every experience that we are learning from is teaching us something. And that something is what I like to call your resilient building factors. Every experience gives you either an experience of, something maybe that you excelled at, or maybe something you didn't excel at. And it allows you to go inwards and process everything that you've gone through. So in a broad sense, I feel emotional resilience means bouncing back from a lot of your stressful encounters in life and not letting it affect how you face the world emotionally. It is coming from a place of being strong and accepting that, yes, failures happen in a person's life and it is okay to fail, reach that bottom place and rise up again. So for me, that is the definition of emotional resilience.
What are the traits of an emotionally resilient individual? What do you think?
So for me, an individual who is emotionally resilient has kind of all their three realms in kind of strong. So there's your physical realm, which is how you feel about yourself. Are you feeling energetic throughout the day? Are you feeling that you are living a healthy life? How do you feel physically about yourself creates that sense of emotional resilience. If you feel happy about how you are looking and how you're feeling from the inside, that creates kind of a pillar for emotional resilience. For me, the next one are your emotional and psychological pillars. So, for example, how is your self-esteem? Are you feeling confident? How are you able to, regulate your emotions? How do you express yourself? Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? How are you thinking about responding to others? Are you, feeling burdened by other people's expectations? That also affects how a person responds to the resilience factors. And I also feel the most important pillar for emotional resilience are your social elements. So that means your friendships, your relationships with others. Because for me, it's about the people that you hang around with. How are they supporting you? How are they manifesting their energies towards you? If there's someone who's draining your energy, is it causing you to feel less energetic within yourself? Does it take away more from you? So it's about understanding all of these three elements that creates that aspect of emotional resilience for me.
So Megha, you were actually right. Now when I was thinking when you were answering this question, the first part, so actually it is like every day is a new day and it comes with new challenges and everything, and ultimately at the end of the day, resilience is like knowing who we are and what our powers are, right?
Correct.
And when to pick up ourselves when we are at our lowest.
Yes, it is very important to pick ourselves up from our lowest. Mm-hmm. Many times when people come to me for any sort of anxiety issues or depression issues, it is because they've lost faith in themselves. They've lost that faith that they have, to get up and become resilient again, to become strong again. And that's when I work from a place where I kind of ask them, did you face any of these failures before? And most of the times the answers is yes, I have. So then I ask them, why did it affect you more this time? And most of the times the answers that I get it's because they feel that they're failing and failing more and more. And my response to them is, well, what did you learn and do better the last time? And that's when they feel a little excited and they say, yes, I did this differently, but it didn't work out. And so then I will go in and say, okay, if that didn't work out, do you want to try this? And I'll just tweak their own method. And I'll tell them, try this again. And I would say 95% of the times those smaller tweaks work and these individuals are able to bounce back. And I didn't do anything different. I'm just telling them, hey, you've already done this before. Let's try tweaking it a little bit. And that makes the biggest of the difference in their lives.
Talking about this, how important it is to build resilience in the current world?
For me, in the current world, it's absolutely necessary, especially for the younger children and I guess the young adults, mostly because of social media. I feel that social media has a big impact in everybody's lives. I would say every adult also faces, certain aspects of the social media and how it responds to us and how we respond to it. So I believe that having that self-awareness of how much you're getting your conflicts from social media, conflicts from your surroundings, it's very important to understand those concepts. In the current world, there's so much happening around us. To not let it affect us requires that amount of emotional resistance. To have that inner chat with ourselves and ask, okay, why is something affecting me so much? Why is it that I feel burdened by somebody else's issues? Is it something that I am hiding within myself? Is it something that I want to bring out in the open and chit chat with either myself or a professional or a friend? And it's also about realizing that, conflicts are happening everywhere. Again, your relationships matter. So how are the relationships affecting you? Is there something that is causing you to feel, that inner turmoil? You're not feeling happy. It feels like the whole relationship is draining. So it's during those times that you have to realize and take a step back and say, do I need these relationships in my life? Are these toxic relationships helping me in some way? And then building your relationships differently, creating those boundaries within yourself to say, okay, I may interact with these individuals, but I am not going to, be fully emotionally, present. I will redirect my energies somewhere else. It's all about realizing that, in the current world, you have to be protective of people around you and how you are controlling your emotions within you. So for me, that's a big factor in building emotional resilience.
Yeah, Megha, actually, I also think that in this digital era, we are talking about digital detox. Such a paradox, right?
It is a paradox. We are so dependent on social media. We get for the younger adults, and I would say even the young teenagers, it's all about the likes and feeling wanted. And that creates a lot of self-esteem and self-confidence issues in younger adults. And I would say even some adults as well. And that when you have your self-esteem and self-confidence affected so much, you automatically push yourself into a negativity zone. You feel like something, you keep pushing yourself, you don't see the rewards coming back, and it creates a vicious cycle where you're consumed with thinking that you are a failure, when in reality you are not. And you fail to recognize that it's people around you that matter more versus people that are in the digital world, the ones who don't know you personally. So that is a big, consideration that individuals do need to give is, have breaks from social media, have breaks from being on the devices, head out somewhere or just spend time with your loved ones, because that is enough to create that emotional factor that brings that emotional resilience stronger within a person.
Absolutely. So, what are the struggles people face when they are not resilient at work or outside, like in personal or professional life?
So I think one of the biggest struggles that individuals face, in work or even at home is they feel as if they're losing control of their lives. They feel as if they're not emotionally stable, and they burden themselves with trying to improve something when there's nothing to be improved upon. They take on these roles, they take on these, expectations, from others, and they put those expectations on themselves, which leads to immense amount of stress. And that stress leads to anxiety. And sometimes together combined, it leads to depression. So it's very important to understand where your boundaries are at work. So for example, if you have hard stops at 5 p.m., then make it a hard stop at 5 p.m. Don't pressurize yourself to work beyond a certain time or beyond a certain, expectation that, just because you answered an email once at 6 p.m. in the evening, then, are you forced to answer that email every time it comes to you? So it's understanding and setting boundaries for yourself. It's also about being mindful about, how you're thinking about yourself. If you didn't do well and you had a negative review at work, how has it affected you? Are you taking it too personally, or are you ready to take that criticism that you got and take it forward and build it as being like a motivating factor for you? So it's about understanding everything that's happening around you. So for me, when you're not emotionally resilient, you fall into the trap of blaming yourself more or even blaming your surroundings, the world. You don't take accountability for yourself. It's all about, blaming others and kind of blaming the world for their reactions. And sometimes all a person needs is to sit down and figure out where they can improve and how they can do better, and go for it. Go after it. Try new things. If the older patterns are not working, then the newer patterns that you might think are going to work for you might do wonders for you. So it's all about trial and error and setting boundaries and not putting unreasonable expectations on yourself.
Yes. So as we are talking about this depression or mental or behavioral health aspect, so do you think can exercises help develop resilience? So is exercising a solution?
So it depends. So when I mentioned that there's the three realms of emotional resilience, which is physical, emotional, and social, the exercises related are actually in those realms. So if you look at your physical realm, yes, you do need to be a little bit active, live a healthier lifestyle, walk for 30 minutes.
Yeah,
that 30 minutes of walking clears your mind. It clears your mind of whatever stress you're feeling. So one of the things that I always recommend a lot of my clients to do is, if they're feeling stuck, at work or home or whatever it is that they're going through, I tell them, go out for a walk for 30 minutes. And what that happens is, in that moment when fresh oxygen hits your mind, it almost causes this reset process to take place. And solutions just start popping up. And it's, they try it and they come back and say, yes, I didn't have solution A or B, but then I came back and I had a solution C, which kind of worked. And then I, worked on it a little more and it helped. So having that 30-minute, walk or yoga or meditation or whatever it is that, clears your mind and pushes fresh oxygen in is what I highly recommend as one aspect of building emotional resilience. The second for me is on the emotional front. So the biggest, I guess, factor in that is building self-acceptance. Accepting who you are. That is the biggest thing that individuals need to do. You cannot be somebody else. You have to be yourself. You have your own strengths. You have your own weaknesses. You can work on those weaknesses and make them your strengths. So you have to be accepting of who you are. You cannot fundamentally change the person that is looking at themselves in the mirror. You have to accept every aspect of you as a being. And I feel building that aspect creates a stronger self-esteem and a stronger self-confidence. If you accept who you are, you automatically build confidence in you. And following that, live with gratitude in your life, because everything that is happening to you has taught you something. And if you thank that whole process, that everything that happened to you happened, for a certain reason, it taught you something, it taught you maybe a valuable life lesson. If you come at it from that thinking, you yourself become very confident in life. You feel more powerful, more empowered to take on the world. And finally, I also suggest individuals to, have stress management exercises in place. So if you're feeling stressed, like I said, go for exercises, go outside, walk in a nature, enjoy the fresh oxygen, enjoy maybe the birds chirping. I also recommend journaling to a lot of my clients, because I feel that once your mind is churning thoughts after thoughts after thoughts, it's very important for those thoughts to come out. And if you don't have a friend nearby, or you don't have somebody you can trust to talk, so get that piece of paper and start writing, and keep writing. Don't stop. Just let your mind put everything down on that piece of paper. And once you're done, it's almost an uplifting experience. You feel, less burdened. And when you look back at that paper, within that, whatever you were feeling stressed for, you also find a solution while you were writing. So for me, stress management is also a very important aspect of how somebody builds resilience within themselves.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. Like whenever I feel low or, stressed out, I used to do this, go out for a walk, especially in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
There are many times, like, I guess everybody feels that, they feel very low in their self-esteem, or like they question themselves. But I don't know, like sometimes I get confused what is the best approach, or what is the best way to deal with this emotional struggle I'm going through. And because sometimes it's hard to, say or confess, or speak about this, right? It's like sometimes like a taboo. So yeah, I think Megha, you gave wonderful, solution to my, not just mine, but I think majority of employees or my age people are facing this. So thank you so much. This was really helpful.
No worries at all. I mean, I feel that it's something that everybody needs in this world. It's that vent, life is becoming more stressed. I mean, it's a given with the amount of pressures younger generations are feeling. It's necessary to practice mindfulness. And I am a big proponent for having mindful pauses, maybe for just 2 minutes in your life. If you can take a step back and, maybe look out a window, or just, grab a cup of tea and, tell yourself a positive affirmation that you really relate with, it does wonders for your mind. It causes that reset and pause, and you're ready to go back again. And mindful pauses also help you to reduce your stress factors. So even when I'm working at home or, with my clients, I do give myself that little 5-minute break every hour, so that I, have a reset. And I have a backyard, so I go and I look outside. So just looking at the trees gives me this calming effect. And when I go back, I am recharged enough to, tackle whatever is there in front of me. So it's, I really feel that having those mindful pauses, even deep breathing during those mindful pauses, is good. You don't have to step outside, even in the comfort of your home with that cup of tea or cup of coffee or whatever you want to have as a drink. Deep breathe. And that creates a whole different atmosphere in your mind. It allows you to think more clearly. It allows you to go inwards and tell yourself that you're okay, you're doing fine, that whatever is happening, you have a solution for it. And, I feel that it is a very important thing that many individuals should start incorporating are those mindful pauses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what can employers do to make their employees resilient?
For me, I think the best thing that employers can do is listen to what the workforce is saying. If you are a manager and you feel that somebody is not having a good day, so don't judge that individual on their bad day. They must be going through something. And that's where I feel the emotional intelligence factors come into play, where empathy and sympathy combine together. Be empathetic to other situations around you. We don't know what others are going through, but we as humans are very quick to judge somebody when somebody, had a bad day or they said something in a weird tone, and we take it very personally.
Absolutely.
I feel we should stop taking things personally. We should recognize that people are, behind their professional lives, there's also a whole personal life. We don't know which aspect of their life is affected. Maybe they had a moment and they said something to you. It's okay to have, that confidence within yourself and say, okay, you know what, maybe I don't need to respond back in a rude way. Maybe I can just give them their space and ask them, are you okay? Those are 3 simple words that anybody can ask anybody, and it can change the dynamic of a relationship. It can change the dynamic of how people, talk to each other. And it creates that sympathy and empathy factor just by asking, are you okay? It opens up this individual to say, okay, if this person has reached out, maybe I can tell them what I'm going through. And that's what is, that helping nature and just being kind to others. Don't just judge them. Accept they're going through something. Don't take it on yourself personally. And, if they're not willing to talk as well, it's fine. You don't have to push them. Just let them be. Give them a few, hours, or, if you are a manager, give them a day and say, why don't you take a day off and, come back tomorrow. We can have a chat. Even saying that much gives the individual, that thinking that I have a support system. I'm not alone. And that also opens doors for conversations to happen. So be open to listening. And true listening is when you're not ready to respond, back very quickly. Listening is just, watching the body language cues. Is the person in front of you wanting you to say something back? Or is the person in front of you just wanting you to listen? That is what listening is understanding the cues. And the individual will give you cues. If they're ready for you to respond back with a suggestion for help, then absolutely give that suggestion to help. If they're just looking at you and, and the perception that you're getting from them is that they just want you to listen, they're just venting, they're just unburdening themselves, then let them do that because they felt confident enough to share something with you. So it is then your prerogative to say, all right, I am here for you. I'm listening, and just listen. So I think that those are some things that employers can do is, don't judge, listen, and give time to your employees to bounce back from whatever they're going through.
Yeah. So are you saying a resilient workplace, a happy and a more productive workplace?
Yes. So a happy workplace is a more productive workplace. Now, the definition of happiness is also dependent on what happiness means to individuals who are in the workforce. So for some, it might be, say, right now working in this hybrid environment where they have enough time to spend with family, they're working from home. Happiness for them could be, continuing in that hybrid environment. Happiness could be, having their work recognized by the higher management, having the applause, the recognition. And what that does is if the manager or the higher management does give back that recognition, it creates a positive reinforcement loop. So if you give back positive reinforcement, the individual that received it will work 10 times harder now to, because they're happier. They felt that their work was recognized and that the work they did mattered. So giving back that positive reinforcement is necessary for somebody's happiness. And after that, I also feel that individuals need that happiness to be coming from a place of, let's say, passion. Are they passionate about the work they're doing? If they're not passionate about the work they're doing, then they're not going to be happy in it. And then you're going to have somebody who is lacking in work, having insufficient results, and a whole lot of things happen afterwards. So individuals need to realize if what they're doing is making them happy, and if it is the right career for them. And I always tell everybody, if you're not happy with what you're doing, then there is something else that you're more passionate about. So explore those ideas.
Yeah.
Don't be stuck in thinking that, just because you are doing something, you have to do it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thankfully, the world has changed so much that we can change careers and be happy.
Yes. What I believe is, like, we talk about culture all the time, workplace culture, growth culture, whatever. But culture is something that we preach, as you have said, right? Like, having this openness, not just to write something in blogs or, documents.
Correct. It is all about practicing it.
Yes.
And for me, especially at work, there are a few more, factors that I feel come into play. And again, that comes from one of the three pillars is your support system at work. Are you able to communicate freely to people around you? Or do you feel that if you said something, they're going to hold it against you? You need to have a support system in place, at work. Who are you comfortable chit-chatting with? How are you dealing with conflicts? That's a major, major thing that I, tell a lot of my clients is how are you dealing with conflicts? How do you manage conflicts at work? Do you shut down, or do you, burst out, or do you take the middle route? It's very important to understand where and how people deal with conflicts.
Yes.
And I also feel that people need a work-life balance. So spend time with your family. If you have a family, go out, spend time with them. Those hard stops happen for a reason. It's because you want to spend time and detach from the work and go into another realm, which is also a place of happiness, a place of support, a place of building confidence, a place of feeling loved. And if this realm, the personal life realm, is, very happy and satisfying, you will see the professional realm, balance it out. People who have, either realm affected, both of your personal and professional lives do tend to get affected. So it's very important to balance those factors out. So, and obviously getting a good night's sleep also helps. Not feeling burdened and not feeling stressed out about something is you need a good night's sleep to create that sense of peace within, that, you had a good night, you're able to rest, you're able to relax, and you can take on whatever it is the next day.
Yeah. Are there any suggestions you would like to give to our listeners?
So for me, the biggest suggestion I can give to the listeners is believe in yourself. Individuals who don't believe in themselves or stop believing in themselves start to question themselves even more. Once you bring that belief in you that you are a resilient being, you have all the necessary, strategies to overcome something within you, is when you're going to realize that you can face the world much more strongly. Think of failures as being your stepping stones. I know it's a cliche. Everybody says failures are your stepping stones, but they truly are your stepping stones. You fail once, that's fine. Stand on that step. Take your next experience. Fail there, great. Try again. Keep trying, because at some point, something that you do will actually work. And that will create this momentum within you. And finding that momentum creates that positive boost of self-esteem and self-confidence and stability within yourself. So believe that you are a strong being and that you have all the resources within you, and manage your energies. If somebody is draining you of that energy, then think about removing that negative energy from your life. Think about how you can block that negative energy if it's somebody close to you, if it's a family member. Create boundaries so that they are not able to affect your positive energies and how you feel about yourself and your self-esteem and your self-confidence. And finally, go out for that 30-minute walk, go out into the fresh air and enjoy nature, because I feel all of the nature is just very therapeutic and very calming. So that would be my suggestion to your listeners is believe in the process of resiliency and believe in yourself.
Thank you, Megha, for your wonderful, and valuable suggestions. I think I had a very, good evening today listening to what you have to say, and I really appreciate for your time. It was a very wonderful chat. I would say a conversation.
I agree. I had a really, I'm truly grateful that I was able to speak about a topic that I'm truly passionate about. You can have me talking on this for hours, but I do hope that your listeners found benefit from today's session and that they start building resiliency within themselves and they see how important it is. So, thank you again for having me today.
Thank you so much, Megha, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.